Hello and welcome to another episode of the Double Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew, alongside my good friend, Marissa. Marissa, would you like to say hello to the people?
Hi.
Okay, it's interesting. But yes, once again, hello and welcome, and we have an exciting show for you today. Um,
Will
Today
it?
is gonna be
Is it though? Will it?
yeah,
Will it really be exciting?
I believe so. Today is going to okay, well, maybe not exciting. Well, actually, no. So you see, no, you got me backtracking here. I believe it's going to be exciting, but definitely for sure it's going to be special because this is the first episode where we are going to delve in to a bit of cricket. Am I right?
Mm,
So
mm.
last week, well, Marissa had the popcorn and she allowed me to go off on my temper tantrum about Manchester United. Tonight, I'm going to be the one predominantly eating the popcorn as Marissa talks about the West Indies cricket team.
Oh
But
God.
but before we do that, um, just gonna cover a smaller portion of football, guys. We're gonna look at the your Women's European Championship 2022. Um, and we're going to start by just doing a quick review of the group stage, look at teams who advance before we get into the quarterfinals and discussing our predictions for the forthcoming matches. So let's start with Group A, which featured England, Austria, Norway, and Northern Ireland. England won the group, having won all three games, followed by Austria in second place. Marissa, any thoughts on the group? Any surprise in that session?
The big surprise was Norway. I guess. I mean, they had a thumping victory against Northern Ireland in their first game, and they looked really on it. But my gosh, that performance against England was terrible. But then even more than that, I mean, it's difficult to say after a team gets beaten 8-0 that they could perform worse. But in many ways, I think that the defeat against Austria was worse because I can't remember the exact timing. But I remember I was watching the game and I think about 77 minutes had gone and they had two shots in total. Some nonsense like that. I was like, you have to win to get to the next round, and you're 77 minutes into a game, and you're not even going for it. I was really appalled by Norway's performances. I was also very appalled at the coach. He made some mm, not necessarily his decision making, but his lack of decision making, specifically in the game against England. Like, how can your team be getting pummeled attack after attack, goal after goal, and you're literally just there sitting on the bench doing nothing? So I think Norway was really appalling for me because they have a very good forward line.
Mhm.
I know the defense is a bit shaky, especially with Mari Mielda coming back from a long term injury. I mean, it was always going to be difficult for her, but I still expected way more from Norway, to be honest.
Yeah, I in large part agree with you. But I guess for different reasons. I guess for me, um, Norbert's reputation precedes them, and I felt as though they would have been one of the historically stronger teams at the Women's European Championships. So I definitely would have expected them to come out of Group A, but as you said, it wasn't to be. They had some very bad performances. I must tell our viewers though that I really didn't watch much of the group stage simply because the results were quite, um, one-sided, lopsided. You know, um, there were
Mm, there
occasions
had
where I
some
turned
good
on the
games
game.
though. There were some
Maybe,
good
maybe
games
okay,
though.
maybe Spain and Germany was a good game. I watched a bit of that, but for the most part, Marissa, like you turn on the game after 15 or 20 minutes and the team is already 3 or 4 nil up. Come on, I ain't watching the possessions, nothing real possessions. All right, so let's go to that Group B. Um, you have Germany, Spain, Denmark, and Finland, and Germany and Spain would be the two teams that qualify from that Group B. I think that was pretty straightforward. No surprises there. Would you agree?
I would agree, but I would also say that that Denmark Spain game was
Mhm.
actually a very good game. And I think Denmark, looking back on it, will be disappointed that they didn't come out to that game with 3 points, specifically because it was the best I saw Denmark play because they had a game plan. You know that Spain will dominate possession. So their game plan, they had harder playing directly up front as opposed to up wide. So their game plan was basically to soak up the pressure, and when they get the opportunity, hit Spain on the break. And they actually created great chances, but unfortunately they weren't able to convert any, and I guess they paid the price for that. But yeah, Germany, Spain, that was expected.
Yeah. Well, that's what I expected to occur. I felt that that group would have been one of the more competitive groups in the first phase tournament. So yeah, I concur with everything you said. Group C, Sweden and Netherlands, Switzerland and Portugal, and we have Sweden and Netherlands um, as the two teams who advanced from that group, both on 7 points. Any thoughts there for you?
Definitely the best group. I think all of the games in this group were competitive,
Mhm,
every last single one. You saw Portugal coming back from 2 goals down against both Switzerland and the Netherlands. They unfortunately couldn't get over the line against the Netherlands because Netherlands quality showed through in the end. I think they scored like what three? No, that was against Switzerland that Netherlands did that. But yeah, I think Netherlands quality showed through against Portugal, and they eventually won 3-2.
mhm,
Um, Switzerland. Switzerland had a decent game against the Netherlands, but Netherlands quality showed through again because I think they scored like 3 goals or something in the last few minutes to eventually solidify their place. Sweden have been billed as the pre-tournament favorites, and I have to say, watching the first 2 games, I wasn't that impressed. I think that they were, but I think they've started to work themselves into the tournament. To be honest, the performance against Portugal was excellent, and but definitely this group had the best group games for sure. All games played among these 4 teams were competitive, in my opinion.
Well said. I will still punt for the Germany Spain group as the most interesting group to me, but
Okay,
it's okay if you disagree every now and then.
yes, to each his
Um,
own. Yes.
so then the final group in the tournament would have been a group that featured Italy, Iceland, Belgium, and France. And France and Belgium would have been the two teams to advance from that group. I think France would have been the overwhelming favorites to come up with this group, as expected.
Yeah,
And I felt as though the other 3 teams was basically the toss up an open affair. Belgium got
pretty much.
got there in the end. Yeah, so that was a group phase. Um,
Yeah.
and today we had our first quarterfinal. We had England versus Spain, which I felt was a gimme
Mm-hmm.
tournament. This is what I call football. You know
Definitely.
what I'm tell you? A nice competitive game where you know the pendulum is constantly swinging. I think Spain definitely would have been the most accomplished side for the majority of the game,
Yeah.
but I felt as though I think England were smart, and this is why I think the England manager was not. I think she was smart in her tactical changes during the game because I think it became apparent after the first because the game started kind of like how the scattered type of football, kind of disjointed, and England had like seemed to have more energy than Spain did. But then once Spain settled, Spain were able to use the ball a lot more. Like I said, were more accomplished. Were able to play 3 lanes, and get themselves into good areas of the field, and they looked more likely to score. I felt as though England quickly realized, especially in second half, that Spain is better technical ways at using the ball and creating opportunities that way than they are. And whereas early on England were trying to play 3 lanes and build the play up with good possession, I think England
Mm-hmm.
changed tact a bit, and what England decided to do then was to go a bit more direct, um,
Direct. Yeah.
and really try to exploit the ball over the top and the long
Right.
ball to the wings. And I felt that enabled England to be more direct, as Spain couldn't stop the ball over the top and they couldn't stop the ball to way to the wings. I felt as though, and as a game where I felt as though the for all of Spain's dominance in possession, I felt as though the midfield and the centre backs of England really stood up in terms of their distribution and how they work the ball in the good areas so they can then make the the final pass into the winger or into the striker, which was I thought Walsh did well. I thought Stanley did well. I thought Williamson, the captain, was good, and I thought Mandy Bright was good on the ball as well as Lucy Bronx. So
Millie Bright.
no, I said Bright was
Don't
good,
be calling. You
and
said
I said that
Mandy or
Lucy
something.
Bronx was good as well.
Don't don't be calling Chelsea players on this podcast name wrong. Okay,
What's your name?
just
I said Bright,
Millie
right?
Bright.
What I
Pardon?
said first? What I said? What did they
Some
call?
Mandy something.
I said Mandy Bright.
I
It's Millie
just
Bright.
something. Yes, Millie. Big number 6 Millie. Um,
I think I feel that as
um,
better at names than this. But anyway, you can go ahead.
you. It's interesting that you say that. Um, because like you said, England were trying to play through the lanes and stuff because that's basically how they played all three of their group games. They were able to build and play fluid football in the group stage because to me, their opponents were not a match for them technically. So they were technically superior. But I think that you said is interesting to see the adaptation she made, acknowledging, hey, Spain is technically superior to my side now. So I have to change tactics. So that's actually brilliant, brilliant in game management.
Yeah. And I felt as though Spain complained about equalizer, but I didn't feel as though it was a foul.
No, there was nothing in it.
Yeah, the
Nothing at
girl,
all.
the Russo was just relatively stronger than Paredes,
Yeah. But I
and
have to say though, I really do think that, and this is a problem that I had with Spain. Spain scored 5 goals in the group stage.
mhm,
4 of those goals came against Finland. Four. They
mhm,
won 1-0 against Denmark and they didn't score against Germany. And for me, it's weird saying this. Germany Spain was a very good game, as we alluded to earlier. But Germany was like 2-0 up after 30 something minutes. But that was not reflective of the game because
you're right.
Spain were playing very, very well. And it was the same thing today. Spain plays excellent football. They hold the ball well, they move the ball well, their off the ball movement is also good. But it's that final part, that final ball, that final decision that to me lets them down. I think at some point in the first half, England didn't have a single shot and they had like 5 or 6 already. Obviously, it's the
Yeah,
quality of the chances that obviously add up in the end. But I just feel that Spain have been missing a goal scorer. And I think that having not had Putellas, I think Hermoso is also injured, would have affected them as well. Because to be honest, they should have gone in at halftime 2-0 up and made it even more difficult for England to get back into the game.
I agree with you. I think like for example, um, England's first shot on target came after the hour mark, so that and I think England had like three. The game finished 2-1 for those of you who don't know. To England after extra time. I think we should have probably mentioned that earlier, but um, England's first shot on target came after the hour mark, and England actually had 3 shots on target in the entirety of the game. I scored 2. So
Yeah,
it was all efficiency and stuff like that. But I was really
exactly.
impressed with watching midfield as Stanway as well. I was really impressed with those two, as well
Yeah.
as Williamson and Millie Bright. That's what you said her name is.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes, Millie
It's
Bright.
interesting. It's interesting though. Stanley is an interesting player. I was trying to get some information on this before we came on, but I wasn't able to as yet. But she's 23,
Yes, 23.
Man City's top scorer, and she's
Mm-hmm.
leaving to go to the Bundesliga. I find it very interesting because you don't really see a lot of young English players willingly leaving to go abroad. So that's very interesting. I wonder if Man City would have fought harder to keep her or whether she just was up for a new challenge. But she seems to be a player for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So a lot, plus points for England. They overcame their hardest test so far in the tournament, and we'll see what the semifinals throw up. And with that said, let's just quickly preview the remaining games in quarterfinals. And tomorrow
Okay.
you have Germany and Austria. I know Germany is your team in the men's football stage. So are you sticking with,
Mm.
are you being, supportive of your
Of
female
course. Of course. Of course.
counterparts? All right.
Of
So what's the score
course. They've
prediction for
been very um I think one of our key players, Leah Schiller, I think that's her name. She has recovered from COVID. I think she missed the last two games. So I think she'll be back. That would be a big boost. And I think, honestly, having watched Austria, you cannot sleep on Austria. But I think Germany will prevail in this one.
you? Okay. Um, I share sentiment. I would have watched the England Austria game, which would have been the opening game of the tournament. And like you, I feel as though Austria, they have a bit about them. They seem to be a very resolute side. They know their capabilities and they have a game plan and they stick to it. So I think that they will
Yeah.
be. I don't think by any means they'll be just a simple walk through or what's not for Germany, but I feel as though Germany has enough to get by Austria. So I'll go with Germany and I'll go with 2-0 win to Germany. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Any score prediction from you?
I was secondly 2-0. Yeah, I was secondly 2-0.
Cool. On Friday we have Sweden and Belgium. I'll let you lead off this one.
Yeah, I actually have not seen any of Belgian games, to be perfectly honest. Wait, no. I think I saw half of one. So I'm not, they're a bit of an unknown for me, but I've watched Sweden. They look impressive. Um, they look strong at the back. I think their forwards are finally starting to click in this tournament. So I would probably go, but they always concede, except in the last game. So I think I'll probably go. I think I'll go 2-1 Sweden here.
All right, I'll stay with your prediction as well. I think Sweden will come through in that game, and focus. I'm simply going on historical pattern, right? Tradition.
Yeah,
Sweden is a very, very
yeah,
strong female team. Always amongst one of the favorites in the European women's game, along with Germany. So I will stay with Sweden as my prediction. And
yeah.
then on Saturday, the last quarterfinal will
Ooh.
feature France and Netherlands,
Mm,
defending champions, against a very, very exciting
mm.
French team. This should be a good one.
This is gonna be a tough game. This is why I was so glad that Sweden finally clicked in their last group game and scored five, because they
Mhm.
would have ended up playing France, and I didn't want that. France look good, honestly, but I think the game against the Portuguese, a much lesser fancy team, where they actually blew a two-goal lead, it showed that was that France. I keep mixing up my games. Was that France? I can't. No, it wasn't France. I am confusing my teams. Netherlands. So let me
Great,
backtrack a bit.
no problem.
Yes, I didn't want. I don't want Sweden. I didn't want Sweden to face France because France looked very impressive. That game against Italy was excellent, and I know that they kind of stumbled. I think they drew one of the games in the group stage, but I think they are playing excellent football, to be honest. Netherlands is the side that is a bit of a wild card for me. I think they have excellent forwards, but that game where they blew that two-goal advantage against Portugal really showed me that they have some cracks there at the back. They really, really do. And I don't force me to call this game because I can't. I genuinely think that this is going to eclipse England and Spain as a game of the tournament, in my opinion. This has everything. And I just don't know. I can't call it. I cannot call it. So you could take this one.
Me take this one. I am feeling the same
Yes.
way as you were. Um, I really don't know what direction this is going to head in. Uh, you know, I'm stuck in the middle, to be honest, and I have no shame. I'm going to sit on the fence.
All right.
And
Both of us
next
can't
week,
sit on the fence. Both of
okay,
us can't sit
all
on
right,
the
okay,
fence.
I'll give a prediction. I
Okay.
predict it goes to. I predict it finishes 3-2 after extra time to the Netherlands.
Mm, mm, interesting.
Interesting is right. Well, anything else you want to say, Marissa?
Mm.
On that note,
want to echo something you said. Yes, there have been a lot of one-sided games in the group stage, but I've actually enjoyed watching women's football this summer, to be honest. I think that there have been a lot of good players on show,
Hmm.
definitely. Um Obviously the tournament is missing some big names. That's very
Right.
unfortunate for some of the teams. But
Yeah.
I think it's really shaping up to be a really, really great tournament, and it's been great to see the support in the stands. The crowds have been fantastic, not just for England games, all the games.
Hmm.
And I'm enjoying it. I really am.
Yeah, I share sentiment. I remember the first women's tournament. I remember it was a World Cup, I believe. I think it would have been in '07. I think Germany won in the final against Sweden, if I'm not mistaken. But that was the first
Well, we
women's tournament
usually
that I have
win most
watched.
things, so
Oh boy. But that was the first women's tournament that I would have viewed as a back then as a child. Um, and I've been steadily following it ever since. And I am proud, excited, happy about where the standard of women's football has progressed to since then, since the first time I stumbled across it because it wasn't like I knew the World Cup, women's World Cup was on.
right.
And that's also something that's also sign of progress as well in terms of the viewing, the amount of viewers that the women's game is now able to attract, and the publicity you get. So that's encouraging going forward, and I look forward to the remaining of this European Championship as well. And having said that, that basically wraps up our football portion of the discussion. I know. Where's my popcorn? Okay, have it here. And we're going to go and get in some cricket. So, Marissa,
Lord, Lord.
I'm going to throw the ball to you. I'm going to let you
I
running.
could drop it.
No, draw
I
the
could
ball,
drop
man.
it in true West Indies fashion and
Oh,
carry
Lord.
on.
Sure, go. Do you think? Do you think?
All right. So in this segment, as my co-host would have alluded to, we are going to be discussing West Indies cricket, specifically their one-day form. Now, when I was doing research, because I listened to a lot of podcasts out there that of people that cover West Indies cricket, and on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, shout out to them, they do an excellent job. They actually brought up this statistic that had me kind of shocked. They were like, West Indies have only won six of their last. No, they've only won six series in the last few years. And I'm
Really?
like, six series?
Hmm.
So I meant to do a deep dive. So I went on Cricket Info and pulled out all my stats.
Good
West
question.
Indies,
Before you go any further,
go ahead.
when you
Mm-hmm,
said they've only won six series in the last few years or what, so you mean in general or you mean in
mm-hmm.
terms of a specific format?
ODIs.
Okay, cool. Go on to you.
Yeah.
Got you covered.
But let me put it into context. Since the ICC Champions Trophy in England in 2013, West Indies have played 34 bilateral ODI series. So this excludes tri-series, World Cups, everything. And out of those 34 bilateral ODI series in the last 9 years, West Indies have only won six. Six series out of 34. And
Yeah.
these are the teams that they beat: a one off match against Ireland in 2013 2014, a series against Bangladesh in 2014, a series against Afghanistan in 2019 2020, a series in Ireland in 2019 2020 as well, and Sri
Mhm.
Lanka as well in that same period, and Netherlands in this year. Six series. And then to make this stat sound even worse, Brazilians have not won a single series, did not win a single series between 2015 and 2019. You know what's going 4 years and not winning a single ODI series? Now, obviously, they
Right.
would have won games here and there. This is not to say that they're not winning games, but they're
But they're
not
just not
winning
winning series.
series.
I thought you've been
Exactly.
used to that by now. That was our childhood, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh. It was childhood wasn't this bad.
Oh, well,
Childhood was not this bad.
that's true.
And
But continue, continue.
this is shocking. This is shocking to me. Like, and we are not beating any sides in series that are ranked that far ahead of us.
Mhm.
And
So
for
we're
me,
basically beating the minnows as opposed to the established teams that would you would consider contenders for a major tournament.
Yeah, because we have become minnows. That's
Yeah,
essentially
yeah,
what it
a
is.
long time, long time.
And for me, we don't have time to discuss all the reasons why vaccines are so bad with the cricket. Honestly, that would take probably the rest of the season to discuss the rest of this podcast season. And we don't have time for that. But
Right.
today, I just want to bring two to the table, two immediate things, two immediate reasons why I think that we are so bad. I think one, our inability to play spin, and
Mm-hmm.
two, our inability to take wickets with the new ball and at the death. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
pointing these two out specifically because they have been glaring issues over the last few years, and especially in the last few series that we have played. And before we get into the discussion of that, put something here. I find it so amazing, right? That West Indies fans absolutely love to scapegoat people. They absolutely love to scapegoat people. They love to scapegoat Karen Pollard for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
He's the problem, he's the problem, he's the problem. But he's not the problem because he was not captain between 2015 and 2019 when we didn't win a series. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, the clamor against Pollard was so much louder than who was captaining between that winless run that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So I just find it interesting that we always look, not we, fans always look for the simplistic reason. Simplistic. Is it a person? Is it the personnel? Is it the coach? And then they always want to sack that person. But West
Correct.
Indies problems go way, way deeper. Let's look at this last series against Bangladesh.
Sure.
Absolutely shambolic. I ain't gotta tell you, I hardly watched any of that one day series, and I'm not ashamed to say that because it was predictable. After the first game, it was predictable because the Guyana pitch is a very poor pitch. But West Indies just do not know how to play spin bowling. They do not. Even going back to the Pakistan series, I don't know how much of that series you followed, but we played well in the first ODI. I
Right.
think we scored about 300 runs.
Right.
And we lost that game
And we lost. Right.
because, in
Remember that
my
one? Yeah.
opinion, and we lost, in my opinion, because of that second reason I talked about, our inability to take wickets with the new ball at the death. Because in that game, we were poor at the death.
Mm-hmm.
And but in the two ODIs that followed that first ODI against Pakistan, we were awful because the pitch offered assistance to the spin. And all the pitch got to do is offer little assistance, and West Indies in shambles.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like before we came on, I decided to go and look at some of the highlights of the games against Bangladesh, the most recent series that we I would have been whitewashed, right? I believe that as well. Which is difficult to fathom when you think back about it because when you think about it rather because West Indies losing at home in any format of the game to Bangladesh was a no at one point. I mean could have once upon a time you could have felt as though Bangladesh, Zimbabwe, the real teams that didn't really play a lot of Test cricket, etc., were at least sure things for us to win, and get some morale
Yeah.
siblings, I guess, if you want to call it that. But anyhow,
Yep.
I watched
Mm-hmm.
took some look at the highlights and stuff of the games, and I noticed the nature of um, the West Indies batsmen's dismissals does
Oh my
suggest that
goodness.
they struggle to pit um, the delivery, especially with finger spinners in that series. I remember Calmers really struggled. So did Sheffield. And even when they scored runs, because there were a lot of highlights I saw, even when they scored runs from shots that they played, they never looked comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
They never looked in control. And I think that's one thing that I can't really think. Okay, I think Foreign is pretty decent at playing spin for the most part, but apart from him, that's in the current ODI setup, I can't really think of anybody else who I would say looks in command or looks in control against spin bowling, and that is a worry.
Shea plays spin well as well, but the problem that we face is that in this series, he pretty much got out early.
Right.
So, and that's the other trend in our ODA form. In order for us to put up big totals, he needs to bat deep. When he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't bat deep, we put up very paltry scores. So that is another problem that we have. Our batting is too reliant on hope. Puran thankfully got some runs in the, was it the third ODI? Yeah. And I thought he played well. I think he knew that he needed to stand up as a captain, and he did. But the rest of the batters, I just don't know what to say. And for me, I know the people will say that we have a World Cup next year, 2023 in India, and that is
Mhm.
going to be an issue. But when you think about it, I've watched ODI series across the world over the last few years. ODI pitches are not this bad anymore, especially when it comes to spin. You're not going to go to India next year and get raging turners. ODI pitches now produce matches that have both teams scoring 270 and upwards,
Mhm.
because that's the nature of our game now. You don't really get raging turners anymore. But my issue is when we have these pitches in no, let me say in Barbados, when we have these pitches in the Caribbean, when West Indies batsmen get on good pitches, they don't know what to do. And they struggle to then put up the big scores that can then challenge other sides. So it's like they can't play spin, but we have a lot of spin friendly pitches here. And
Mhm.
then when they get on good pitches, they don't know what to do. I mean, I thought there were two matches against the Netherlands that really enforced this to me. In against Pakistan, when we scored, I think it was about 308 or something, 305 to 8. We were 163 for 2 after 31 overs when Shamar Brooks got out. You know, in convention, you always hear is you double your score after 30 overs. Doubling
Right.
that score would have taken us to 330 odd. 330 odd would have won that match against Pakistan. But ultimately, we didn't get enough support from the middle order, and we kind of stumbled our way to 305.
Right.
Similarly, a similar thing happened against the Netherlands. So it's like West Indies do not know how to construct good innings on good pitches, and then they don't know how to play on bad pitches. So there's no like, what's the word I'm looking for? Is no surprise that we suck at ODI cricket. We can't play when the pitches are good. We can't play when the pitches are bad. So then where does that leave us?
Well, I have some theories, right?
Okay.
And
Let's hear
Mercer's
these
a bit
theories.
Mercer's a bit different than me because I don't want to say given up, but I've kind of stepped
You've
away from the
checked
West
out.
Indies.
Checked
Yeah,
out
correct.
of West Indies cricket.
Right, because then again,
Leaving me to suffer on my own. Leaving me to suffer on my own.
right, I check him back in slowly but surely, right? But
Okay.
not as a supporter in terms of expanding that domain. I just check him back in, to at least have some knowledge and understanding of what the problems are. Um, Supporting West Indies, man. I ain't but I heard it and that frustration. But here are my theories on why West Indies perform so badly in ODI cricket. Um, I think some of these issues that I find or that I believe exist have been there for a while, right?
Mhm.
I think that I think West Indies players play a bit too much 2020 cricket, and I feel as though sometimes it is a challenge to transition into a different format of the game, and their approach doesn't necessarily always change, right? Or change as quickly as it should. I
Okay,
feel
stick
as
a pin
though
there. Stick
okay,
a pin
good.
in that first reason.
Mhm.
No, I agree. But I also think that how to put this? Okay, there are two things I want to say about that. One, that's also a very much a scheduling issue. I find most players today all over the world play more T20 cricket than ODI cricket. But I also think, to me, when West Indies tour other sides to play ODI cricket, they need to take a 18 with them, because you can't just be relying on your T20 stars to construct 50 over innings. It can't work like that. Like you said, they need to play more first class cricket, more list A cricket, more 50 over cricket. But I think their backups also need to do the same thing. Let me give you an example. Australia and Sri Lanka were playing a series, T20s, ODIs. and a couple test matches in Sri Lanka. Australia had a first team down there, but they also had an A side playing Sri Lanka A. Those are things we need to start getting our cricketers doing. So, for
Yeah.
instance, we have players that we've dropped from the ODI setup. Roston Chase. Who else? Gosh, I can't remember all the names that aren't around. But let me use Roston Chase as an example. Instead of being dropped completely and just sitting down waiting until he gets recalled or waiting until first class cricket arises again in the Caribbean, we should have a A team made up of Roston and other players that we think are on the cusp and take them on tours with us. That is my opinion. We can't just expect that when a place for Roston frees up again in the ODI setup that he can just walk back in because
And
he'll
can
walk
hit
back
it
in
over. Yeah. He will back in a little bit.
exactly. Exactly. And he will repeat the same mistakes that probably got him dropped in the first place. And this is not me singling out Ross, and this is just me using him as an example. So I think that whole thing about West Indies players playing too much T20 cricket is definitely valid. But I think all West Indies players, whether they're in the first team or just outside of it, need to play more cricket generally.
Yeah,
Because we're
generally.
only going
Yeah.
to get better if we play more cricket. That's the
Right,
thing.
and that's the point I was coming to, because I think when I said that I felt the transition is a challenge, is because they play
Mm-hmm.
so much T20 cricket that almost in every format of the game, or every other format of the game, they seem to have the same mindset, the same approach. And I feel
Right.
as though what then happens is that you then get a situation where in longer formats of the game where the innings is going to be longer. So 50 over in Test cricket, where most teams in Test cricket that have good batting lineups tend to bat 2.5 days, right? At least in the first
Yeah.
innings. And and we all know that that's a problem for West Indies. So he's my back in the day. So you then get a situation where they're not equipped to manage phases in the game. I think that the batsman's game management is a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem because, like you said, they don't play enough cricket, and I feel like that is a broader issue. I'm not sure if we're getting to it now, but that's a broader issue in terms of how the setup or structure of Western cricket is presently constructed. In terms of,
Mm-hmm.
there has been no progress, there has been no evolution of the structure of West Indies cricket in the Caribbean since the West Indies team first came into existence, I believe. Like, to be honest, why, and we got to ask ourselves this question: why does every other major cricket nation treat their cricketers as, that is a profession? Like, that is a job,
Yeah.
and all you do is play cricket. In the Caribbean, let's be honest, they don't play near enough cricket. They play cricket during the cricket season, the original season, and then that's it. Thank God for the opportunity to go overseas and play a little, some cricket for other teams and IPL or come to cricket occasionally, but that's not enough. So I think that we need to, probably don't have the resources to do it, but I think that there needs to be an overhaul of the West Indies structure and get these guys playing, some version of county cricket in the Caribbean year round. Like, that's their job. You get what I'm saying?
That's a great point because I was also thinking about the recent series that England and India were playing. They were playing T20s and ODIs there in England. And at the same time, England have their T20 league on the same time. So you have players that are playing cricket and ready to be called up. I mean, for instance, Ben Stokes shockingly announced his ODI retirement, but they
Yes.
don't have to go digging for somebody else because players have been playing in domestic leagues or in probably in form, and they could say, "Hey, look, this guy scoring some good ones. Let me bring him into the setup." So I completely agree. There needs to be more, and I mean, like, I I can't even remember when was the last regional Super 50 tournament. I think it was recently though, but it's like we have a season and that's it. Just silence after that.
Yeah,
And that can't work for a game that is supposed to be professional in the Caribbean.
exactly. Because really and truly, you're sending part-time careers to play against full-time people, and
Exactly.
that's part of the problem. And I feel like so like so I feel like they need to do something about that. They need to treat the cricket season as like how the football season runs from September to May, and then you get 3 months off. No problem. You know, unless he be a national team, or those three represent a national team Um, playing some sort of series or what's not, but for the most part, that's how it should be run. Um, there's too much off time. Um, and I feel as though by doing that, you will get a situation because I'm sure there are players in England, there are players in Australia, for example, India maybe, who don't always get picked for the same county teams.
Right.
But one athletes have the power to migrate and expand their horizons and them come to Caribbean. Then you improve the standard. So it's not a case where I think that by doing that, you will always get a case where the players who play here, if we had a program like that, I don't think that they would never ever get the opportunity to be exposed to a higher caliber of spin bowler or fast bowler or batsman, right?
Yeah.
So that's just my take on it. But to just mention what you said, we can't play spin. I think that's indicative of a problem. We played too much 20 cricket, and suddenly transition can be a challenge. I feel as though that hinders game management for the batsman in terms of. I think there's some of the same issues that we had when Chris Gill, for example. I mean, when he was younger, not Chris Gill just retired, but when Sarwan and those guys were playing. Remember, we had an issue in the middle overs where we didn't really rotate the strike and we would just slow down.
Right.
I think
Right.
that issue still exists, pretty
It
much.
still exists, and that brings me to something a key point that I wanted to point out. West Indies' problems in ODI cricket is not a personnel problem. It's not something you can solve by dropping this person and bringing somebody else. West Indies' problems in ODI cricket are systemic. They
Correct.
start from the top and they need to be fixed from the top. We need to start preparing better pitches. And better pitches produce better cricketers. Even on one of the podcasts I was listening to this week, somebody said, you know how England had this famous red ball reset a few years ago? Part
Mm-hmm.
of that is preparing good pitches so that their batsmen could go and blast runs consistently. You cannot produce good cricketers on substandard pitches. So from the top, West Indies need to say, look, what do we need to do to develop better cricketers? Because dropping a Kyle Mears and bringing in somebody else, or dropping a Odin Smith or Romario Shepherd and bringing in somebody else is not going to fix the problem. And
Yeah.
this was my issue. I mean, we all know the West Indies defense of the World T20, even though it's a different format, we're focusing on ODI cricket, but just using this as an example. Everybody was clamoring for, oh, we should not have taken those old guys. We should have bring this buddy and this buddy. It would not have made an iota of difference because at the end of the day, you're going to have the same people coming in, making the same mistakes, doing the same things that the other people are doing because at the end of the day, our problems run deeper than just who is playing. So it starts from the West Indies Cricket Board. I actually saw this report the other day. Somebody calling for Phil Simmons' head because we get whitewashed. I'm like, why? Do we really think change? How much coaches have West Indies have, and we're still having the same problem? It's
Quite a
not
few.
the coaching.
I mean,
Exactly.
we've tried foreign coaches before too. Not he's a foreign coach, obviously, but we had
Exactly.
we tried some foreign coaches that had a pretty good reputation at the in national teams that they would have coached, and they came to and the results didn't really improve. So
Still
yeah,
come here
I
still.
agree. It's a systemic. What's the word you use? Systemic problem.
System.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Nice thought,
And
fast. And
I mean, I know. But let me just put this thing there too. I think the current board under the current leadership is doing a better job than the previous leadership. I had my issues with the former administration, and I
Mhm.
think this current administration is trying to improve things. But I still think that we are making a lot of mistakes and we need to start correcting them. We need to. If not, honestly, at this point, I'm gonna be very honest. I do not think Astonese are going to qualify for the World Cup next year.
I
We
agree.
already are
I think that's really in jeopardy.
exactly because they're doing the point system now. I
Mhm.
think that when most of the teams for their cricket at the end of the year, we're going to be outside automatic qualification. And
Correct.
if we have to go through qualification rounds, I am still not sure we're going to get through those qualification rounds because
Correct.
we are very, very, very poor at ODI cricket. Our batting is literally Shea Hope made with a little Nicholas Puran sprinkled in, or bust. Our bowling is very, very, very ineffective. We lack somebody to read, as I said at the top of the segment, we don't have a wicket taker with the new ball. Yes, we have Akil Hussain. He's come on leaps and bounds over the last few years or a year or so. We have Alzari, who has also improved. He's, in my opinion, he's put on a yard of pace, so he's gotten better. But we lack wicket takers. You look at the best sides in the world, Andrew. Mitchell Stark, Shaheen Shah Afridi. We
Yeah,
got
we like
Woodstock
a
there. Yeah,
yeah, we like
we
a
don't.
genuine straight bowler for sure.
Exactly, and that is a problem. I know Jason coming back for the series against India, but Jason's ODI record recently is not the greatest either. So him coming back, I would like to say is going. It will give us more experience with both bat and ball.
Mhm.
But honestly, I really think we're gonna get drubbed against India. I really,
This
and
Jason Holder, right?
India said the second string. Yeah, yeah,
But
he had a rest,
right, but the
much
thing with
deserved
Jason
rest.
Holder, right, is that even okay, him coming back is definitely gonna give us some experience. I mean, I think Jason was a solid cricketer, but he isn't a genuine straight bowler either. So and this is an interesting
Right.
thing. I feel like honestly since Bros and Walsh would have left, I don't think we've had a genuine straight partnership at the top of innings in any format of a game. It's
I
been a
want to
struggle.
say so. I think in test matches we have it now. We have it,
Right. Okay.
and we've
Well,
had it
Kimar
for the
Roach
last few
and
years.
Kimar
Yeah,
Roach
and
and
the
who's the
young
other one?
fella, and
Oh,
Shannon.
Nephew.
When
Right.
Shannon, I
Right. And
remember
Shannon. Right. Shannon
you
Gabriel.
just thought Shannon Gabriel was just all pace and nothing else, but Shannon actually improved his game over the last
Yeah,
few years. So
but
that's why,
when I said like Shannon was just pace and nothing else. That all he was that time. So
yes, that's what
don't
I'm
give me so
saying. But he really improved. So I would
right.
say that's why to me our test side still performs better than our other formats because we do have the ability to take 20 wickets in test matches right now. We
Right.
do have those players. But for some reason, and I know we call back Roach, we call back Roach for a series recently in ODI cricket to solve that problem, but it didn't really solve that problem. So I just don't know, man. I am worried about, or not worried because I am fully braced for the fact we won't qualify for the World Cup. But but I know the region is gonna flip. Oh, if it doesn't happen, they're gonna call for heads to roll. They call for Puran to get sacked. But
They're ready for that.
that's not gonna solve it.
But my question to you is that your spoiler? US will not qualify for the World Cup in India next year.
Yes,
That's a spoiler.
I am 100% certain
You
that they
heard it here
won't.
first on the Double Podcast. Marissa Chandler has made a very, very interesting spoiler alert. You know, it's not prediction, it's a
Look,
spoiler. You know, so
look, look.
this is a sign of things to
And
come.
I will listen. I will be happy to be wrong. To be honest, I will be happy to see a much improved West Indies performance against India in this ODI series to give me some hope that we will. But right now on current form, I just don't know how we will. I just don't know. Ah, it's not a great time. And the thing that I've been feeling lately too, having been watching these series, I watched the South Africa England game yesterday. Like you see teams like India and South Africa going to England and beating them on their home patch. You know the English would like to say, "Oh, our captain not retire and Stokes not retire." You know the excuses is always right with them when they lose. But the fact of the
Mhm.
matter is, I sat down, I thought to myself, West Indies are so far behind other people right now when it comes to ODI cricket. The sort of cricket that South Africa played yesterday against England was excellent. The standard India showed against England as well, also excellent. And it makes me worry for our game. And that's why I say the board needs to start by having regional overhaul of our pitches so that we can actually start producing the quality cricketers that can actually go there on the international stage and do well.
Yep, and they then need to start to revolutionize the way cricket is seen in terms of what it means to be a professional cricketer in the Caribbean. We can't have cricketers
Yeah,
in the Caribbean just playing cricket, for 3 months or so, and then and that's it. That's
yeah.
ridiculous, and it's about time that
Because
changes.
they play more overseas cricket than local cricket. Let's be fair. Because there's always a franchise league somewhere.
Correct.
So, you know, it's not only about the money that the players go and play, they play to play as well.
Correct.
So, like
Yeah,
we
I'm
have
sure.
to.
Yeah, I'm sure we have players who play just simply to improve, to better their craft. But
Exactly.
we need to give them that opportunity. And like you said, they need to. I would really like to see that cricket in the US and Barbados, Jamaica, what's not, becomes an actual job, and that's all you do,
Yeah.
rather than you work in Monday, your 9 to 5 on Monday to Friday, and then you gotta play the club cricket on Saturday and Sunday. No, 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 that's not enough.
Yeah. But in our that the board need money though. They
Yeah, I
need
need money.
money
I
to
know, I know,
play
I know, I know, I know. They
them
ain't get it from
full
me,
time.
but I know they need money. You got a little
Boy,
change of first.
none at all.
That's very unfortunate. Um, I ain't gonna get into it, but yeah, they definitely. I know. Yeah, financial resources is a challenge. That's crazy though. Considering at one point we were the best team in the world, we should have had some sort of sponsorship or something in place. But I don't
That's
think
another I
then people are looking at it with
I am so
foresight.
glad you brought up that word sponsor. Do you know that West Indies is currently playing series with no sponsor on their
Yeah,
shirt?
I know this because I remember I read that shirts were empty for a Friday shirt sponsor. I know this.
Like I like how the T20 shirt looks without it, but the one day shirt don't look too great
Yeah,
without
yeah,
it.
just
And it
it
makes
look
me
blank.
right. So then I'm wondering what's going on there. Like, what is really the state of our game right now in the region that we can't even have a sponsor?
Correct.
I don't know. It's sad,
Yeah,
sad and depressing.
really is.
But you know what? Rally around the West Indies. The go somewhere tomorrow and I go get it at 5 o'clock in the morning and watch them. I probably won't get at 5, but I'll probably be up at 7, 8, and I'll still be watching them because I can't help. I'm a glutton
Yeah,
for punishment. As somebody once
really.
said on Twitter, I am in a toxic relationship with the West Indies. That's just how it is. No
Okay,
matter how bad
I
they do
enjoy
me,
it, but I love it though.
look, no matter how bad they do me, I still there. I still remember the good times. I still remember the 4 6s in the T20 World Cup. I just
Oh, okay,
still
okay.
remember how we shut up the Australians when James Faulkner was talking all he junk and we bring home that title. I still remember the good times.
Few and far
So
between, but
that
at least
keeps
you
me
have some.
going.
Few and far between, but at least you have some.
Yeah. That's
But
why
I
I say
remember the
it's a
good times too.
toxic relationship.
I remember the Lara 153 in Canton Oval. I remember, I remember the good times. So I had some good times about this
Good
back in the day.
stuff.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Oh, how
So,
I long for those days again.
uh folks, thank you for joining us. This has been another episode of the Dugout Podcast. Please tune in next time.